Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is cover. Before we take a look at some of the definitions or ways we might use this verb, I want to tell you that there are so many different ways to use the verb cover. I have only tried to pick out some of the more common ones that you are either likely to hear or see when you're reading. So the first one I think most people have heard is the meaning to put something on top of or in front of something else, especially in order to protect or conceal it. And conceal just means hide. So again, I think this is an action that happens quite often. This is something many people do in the kitchen, and we'll see some example sentences related to that a little later. A second way you might hear the verb cover used is to mean to be coated in a layer of something. I have some neighbor children that love to play in the rain. And usually, if I look outside and they've been outside for 5 minutes in the rain, they are covered in mud, right? So there's like this layer of mud all over them. A third way you might hear the verb cover used is to mean to extend over a particular area. So as you visit a particular park or other place, you might hear that it covers so many acres. It extends over this area. A fourth way you might hear the verb cover used is to mean to deal with a subject or to apply to a particular person or situation. So with this usage, I think this is actually a verb I use pretty often in classes, right? So I might say, today, class, we're going to cover, and then I say the topic, right? So if it's math, I might be talking about fractions, or I might mention a particular type of grammar that we're going to focus on. You might also hear people say that these rules cover full-time employees, but not part-time, right? So that's the meaning of applying to a particular person or situation. A fifth way to use the verb cover is to mean to be enough to pay a particular bill or a cost. So someone might say, I'll cover dinner. Just another way to say, I will pay for dinner. A sixth way you might hear the verb cover used is to mean to perform a new version of a song that has originally been performed by someone else. So if you are a music lover, then you're definitely going to hear this particular verb used. It's very much a part of creativity in music and different ways to sort of interpret songs. You should know that cover is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, we're going to add ing to form covering. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by adding ed. The base verb, cover, ends in an R sound. So our ed is just going to make a D sound. Covered, covered. Now let's take a look at a couple phrasal verbs with cover. The first one we're going to look at, cover for, can have a couple different meanings. The first meaning for cover for is to provide an excuse. Let's take a look at this usage. I will cover for Mary if anyone asks where she has gone. So this might be a phrasal verb you hear at work, particularly if your job deals with clients or customers and someone needs to step away for a while, right? So you're saying, I'm going to provide this excuse if somebody asks where my coworker is. Connected to this, cover for could also mean that someone is doing someone's work while they are temporarily absent. So here's an example of this usage. I covered for her while she was off sick. The last phrasal verb we're going to take a look at today is cover up. It can mean to conceal or try to stop a group of people from finding something out. So this particular phrasal verb has a pretty negative meaning to it. Here's an example sentence. The politicians covered up the incident, but eventually the truth came out. So what we're describing here is the politicians tried to hide the thing that happened, but eventually people found out. Now today, with our Verb of the Day cover, we're going to practice making sentences that ask for permission. And as with many things in English, there's more than one way to do this. So to ask someone for permission to do something, you can be rather informal or less formal by using the modal can. We can also use the modal could. That's considered just a bit more formal. But the most formal way to ask for permission is with the modal may. So our structure for all of our questions here are going to start with a modal, then our subject, then the base verb. So I mentioned with the first definition of putting something on the top of or on the side of something to protect or conceal it, that I would reference this. So many people are going to be with their families in the kitchen, and things can get a little chaotic, a little busy as we're all in there cooking. So you might ask sort of the leader, who the top chef in the family, right, at some point, do I have your permission, right, to cover these dishes, right? So the way I would ask that, can I cover these dishes? And again, if maybe you're talking to a sibling, it's fine to be less informal. And the way you might hear people answer a question about permission is if they can say yes, they can say sure or of course. Or if they don't agree and they don't want to give you permission, right? They can say, no, you can't, sorry, but. You can also make affirmative and negative sentences where you are giving permission to another person. I feel like it's pretty common for parents, teachers, supervisors to use these types of statements. So if I'm going to make an affirmative sentence giving permission, I can start with my subject, then we'll have the modal can, and then the base verb, right? So again, if I'm sort of the person in charge of the kitchen, I might tell someone else, you can cover the dishes with foil. You have my permission. Or if I don't want them to, right, I would say, you can't cover the dishes with foil. Okay. Moving up into slightly more formal, you'll see an example here of a question. Could we cover your song? This connects back to that sixth definition that we looked at. So somebody, another way you might hear this, remaking a particular song. So performing a song that someone else has written and sort of made famous, right? So we've got our question here. Could we cover your song? Right? So maybe one musician talking to another, right? And again, we can say, yes, you can. You could answer, go ahead. What you should notice here is we're not using could in our answer. Okay? That's important to remember. We can also say no to someone's request for permission, right? So you could say, no, you can't, sorry, but, and then you give a reason. You're going to notice here, we are not using could to make affirmative or negative sentences that give permission. So we'll move to our most formal way to ask for permission. It's using the modal may. So perhaps you're talking with your supervisor and you think there's something really important to be discussed at a particular meeting. So might ask for permission. May he cover that topic during the meeting? May we discuss this? Right? And an answer to this type of question might be, yes, you may. You might hear sure or of course. But you could also hear, I have a negative response. No, you may not. Sorry, but. Okay? And we can use may to affirmatively give permission to someone. So here, again, our structure is going to go back to subject, our modal may, then the base verb. He may cover the subject during our meeting. So he may mention it, discuss it. He may not cover the subject during the meeting. Okay? Again, here we're not giving someone permission. What you'll notice here is we do not form a contraction with may not. Important to remember as well. Now let's take a look at some words that are related to our verb cover. And the first word we're going to take a look at is just the noun form of this word. So we have the exact same spelling, the exact same pronunciation, and just like our verb, our noun can have a number of different meanings. I've picked out 4 for us to look at. So the noun cover could be a thing which lies on, over, or around something, especially in order to protect or hide it. Here's an example sentence. They removed the manhole cover to investigate the problem. So here, manhole cover is something that's, I imagine, on every street, right? So if you kind of see those circular things protecting us from falling into the hole if you're walking down the street, but available if there's some sort of problem with our sewers or other drainage systems. A second way you might hear cover used is a physical shelter or protection that is sought by people in danger. Let's take a look at this usage. We ran for cover when we saw the funnel flag. And so here someone's perhaps describing seeing a tornado forming and realizing they need to find shelter or protection. A third way you might hear this noun cover used is to mean a performance of a previously recorded song. So again, this connects right back to the verb, the 6th definition we looked at with this verb. Here is an example. The band played covers of Beatles songs all night. Okay? So these were not songs the band had written. They're not their original ideas. And that's okay. It can be actually a lot of fun, right, to hear cover songs. The last way you might hear the noun cover used is to talk about bedclothes, which is another way to talk about quilts, blankets, and other things that people put on their beds. So let's take a look at this usage in a sentence. I just want to stay under the covers on cold, rainy days. So another way to say, I just want to stay in bed. The last word we're going to take a look at today is the noun cover up, and it can have 2 different meanings. So it might connect back to the phrasal verb we looked at earlier. So the noun cover up could be an attempt to prevent people from discovering the truth about some sort of serious mistake or even a crime. So here is an example of this noun. The government official was accused of a cover-up. Again, very serious. A slightly more fun way to use cover-up as a noun, though, is just a loose outer garment that's generally worn over a sweatsuit. So here's an example of that usage. She bought a new cover-up for summer. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.